Hello and welcome to On the Air with FDT-TV. My name is Ian.
Hi, Mike.
And we are here on transfer deadline day. There's only a few hours to go in the UK and there's some big deals to be talking about. But first, before we get into the transfer window, let's have a recap of the weekend's football that's just gone. Most of the Arsenal fans probably don't want to relive it. But we're going to make you anyway. That's the punishment you deserve for your years of telling us you're a big club. Mike,
Yeah,
you was
I'm not.
quietly confident, I would say, that you might
I'll
nick
tell
a
you
draw
what,
or something.
yes. It was one of those heart and head situations. So Hart would have been happy with the draw, but Head was saying that we were gonna get beaten. I didn't expect it to be as prolific as what it was. However, I think we started the game quite well. For the first 10 minutes, I think we were kind of on a level with Manchester City. But as soon as that first goal went in, man, and as shambolic a goal as what it was, our heads just dropped. We didn't create any chances, kept giving the ball away, and just capitulated further and further and further. So the first goal, I think, was Gundogan. Poor marking from Chambers, and I think it was also Cedric at that particular point. But no, it was Rob Holding, sorry. And it was one of the easiest headers I've seen. But as I said, we capitulated further and further and further. 5-0. That's definitely one of those games where you just have to kind of put it to the back of your mind and just press on. For me, this as I said at the start of the season, the Chelsea game and the Manchester City game were definitely going to be one of the harder games that we have in terms of where we're at. And I never thought that we would win those. So if you check out my preview for the season, I said that Brentford should have been a win. I think we've got Norwich and Burnley coming up now after the international break. If we don't get 6 points out of those, which is not going to be easy, Norwich have, again, as they did the last time they were in the Premier League, put up a good fight, but just can't seem to get the results. And Burnley, I think they're only a couple of places above us at the moment, so they're having a bit of a torrid time as it stands at the moment as well. But if we don't get 6 points, then serious questions need to be asked.
Yeah.
With what's going on, we had a good win actually against West Brom, and for me that was I was hoping that was going to be one of those ones where we have a spark and something kicks on from that, but. I mean, there were quite a few changes within the team as well. So Lokonga that's come in was dropped. He's been pretty good since he's come in. Who else? I can't remember. It's just a shambles. Want to put it to the back of my mind, but yeah.
I mean,
we move on.
The thing you mentioned the West Brom victory there. I just want to mention that because I watched that game. I was quite intrigued because I did think West Brom actually high flying again in the Championship. They've got relegated last season, as most people will remember, and they're now the best team in the Championship again by quite a way, even though they've had a lot of outs. They've changed. They're playing that same sort of high press football as Liverpool, Manchester City, and they're actually doing it quite well in the Championship. Now, there was a lot of youngsters playing for them, and I think a lot of people to start off with, when you saw the team sheet, thought we're going to absolutely storm this. And for the first 20 minutes, 25 minutes, it was, I thought, really competitive and actually a really interesting game to watch. And it was Aubameyang who got a couple of scrappy goals to start off with by pouncing on those things and being in the right positions that makes him a world-class footballer. The others weren't quite there. And then you started to kick on. You did hit the post a few times as well. But I do think he's right. As much as it might have been a youth team that maybe weren't up to the standard of matching you for 90 minutes, by the end of 90 minutes you had obliterated them, and I did think, well, actually that could make for an interesting game against Man City. As you said, a little bit of fire in the belly, little bit of confidence, and yeah, it capitulated as soon as you conceded a goal. Who played in goal for you against City?
Leno.
It's Leno. So here's the thing, I know I said about Aaron Ramsdale being the relegator, and he made a few decent saves against West Brom.
West Brom.
And I do think that that going forward he needs to be starting because he's a country mile ahead of Leno, and I think that's just in the communication in his box.
Yeah, he was definitely one of the standout players against West Brom. As you mentioned, he did pull off some good saves, and there was a load of people that obviously slated him before he'd even put the Arsenal shirt on.
Yeah,
saying what are Arsenal doing? Why are we shopping at Aldi and Lidl? When, let's be honest, we've just come through a pandemic. I know it's kind of a bit of a poor excuse in terms of the money that we've spent over the course of the transfer window, but I think we have recruited okay in the areas in which we needed to recruit.
Yeah.
That's something that obviously we'll come on to a little bit later in terms of the ins and the outs for each of our clubs. But I think we have recruited okay in the positions in which we needed, and we've got rid of a few deadwood players as well.
Yeah.
But it's do you know what? I do agree. I think he was Aaron Ramsdale, just going back to your point, he was commanding the box or commanding the defence really, really well. And fair play to him. There was a lot of pressure on him. He kept a clean sheet. So yeah, I would tend to agree with you actually that he needs to possibly start against Norwich.
And as much as a lot of Arsenal fans will probably swear at this, I feel like you're missing David Luiz.
Yeah, I agree.
And not necessarily for his footballing acumen, but his footballing brain and his leadership skills at the back.
Yep, 100%.
A bit like Van Dijk going into that Liverpool team. I know it's an odd comparison, but Liverpool defence was a shambles. They brought in a new keeper, as you have done, and then they brought in Van Dijk, who commands that entire thing, and that's what I think you're missing. And I think David Luiz, as much as he was getting on in years and was a little bit of a liability at times, I think he needs to be there, or you've lost that sort of thing. You haven't replaced that leadership in the back line as of yet.
Oh yeah, I completely agree. And obviously we did see Granit Xhaka sent off in the first half as well for a bit of a nutty boy challenge in terms of it was a 2-footed left the floor. However, I will sound like a bit of a moaning Arsenal fan here, but I will stand by it. There have been inconsistencies again. We've seen a dodgy challenge from Paul Pogba.
Yes.
In the game against Wolves, and I have seen the picture. I don't know who it was specifically, but I think it was Burnley versus someone. Guys 2 foot off the floor, taking out the opposition player, and nothing was done with it.
Yeah.
And I don't understand how. Again, we can go back to the inconsistencies. Why is it we seem to be punished more?
Yep.
And it's not even one of those ones where you even have to go and have a look at it. It's like, no, red card, dangerous foul play.
Yeah, I mean, Paul Pogba's one was right in front of the ref as well. I mean, I don't know. I would hope it wouldn't, but say reputation may go on it. Granit Xhaka's got a history of putting in some horrible challenges, picking up some reds along the way. So maybe that goes in towards the referee's thinking of actually he's got a history for it. It wasn't an accident. There was intent. I don't know. I'm not saying that's a justification for it, but that's the only thinking I think as to why it's inconsistent.
Yep.
And as we were saying, we'll get onto transfers in a little bit, but sorry, pardon me. We've seen the Arsenal board back Arteta with signings this year. I think I may be wrong. I think you're still you spent the most in the Premier League in terms of transfers, and you've got poor performances. So that says to me, as much as Arsenal are doing poorly, they believe he's going to turn it around and are backing him for the long term. What's your take on that?
It is a really difficult one. You would think, as you just mentioned, I think we've including today's transfer, if that all goes through and there are no more signings, I think we've done about £150 million in this window-ish. Excuse me, which would suggest, with the players that we've seen leave over the course of the time that he's been in charge. So we've seen a couple of transfer windows. We've seen a few players with their contracts ripped up or cancelled. We have also seen some players in. You would like to think that they are going to give him the backing. Obviously, as you mentioned earlier, it would come down to the fact that if it comes down to being bottom of the league come Christmas time, then serious questions have to be asked. But
yeah,
I think you need to look at the Liverpool example in the fact that they gave Jurgen Klopp the reins. So he made transfers, and within, I think it was like 4 years, they had a successful team. Obviously winning the Premier League a couple of seasons ago. Again, I think some fans are going a bit overboard to start off with, considering some of the first team players that we've had out with COVID and injury.
Yep.
So I think we need to kind of judge it once we've got a full strength squad back, because we've got no European football to worry about this year, which you would think, obviously, a major injury permitting, you would think we would have the strongest squad available for each of those games. For the first 3 games, we haven't. We've had to go with a kind of a bare bones squad. But then I suppose in that sense, we need to obviously look to our squad depth.
Yep.
And is it good enough? I would say at the moment, no. But there's only so much that you can spend realistically within each of the transfer windows. But in order to get more money, you obviously need to be more successful. So it's kind of like a double-edged sword on this in this instance. So I'm hoping that coming back from the international break, we've got, dare I say, a slightly easier run of fixtures than the first 3 games.
Yeah.
We should have some of these players returning back from injury, sickness, and I should hopefully make us more competitive. And obviously the new signings that we've got as well.
Yeah.
But in answer to your question, it does look like that he's in it for the long haul, unless something changes dramatically, i.e. being bottom of the table at Christmas.
Yep, that is fair enough. On the contrary to that, the biggest club in London are right up there.
Yeah, boy.
I had to say, I mean, we had a poor performance against Palace. And I say that in terms of defensive performance, which I've been a bit nervous about. The first few fixtures, we've not quite looked right, and I said that in the opening day fixture. Fabianski doesn't look his normal self. I don't know whether that's just a case of he's had a bad couple of outings. I mean, both of the goals that Conor Gallagher scored against us should have been saved quite simply. One of them was a miss hit. Second one was a bit better, but still, he should have got there. It was his near post. And I don't know whether it's a case of he's just not up to speed yet. He's got a niggle, or maybe the fact that he now knows we've got another decent shot stopper, and it's that thing of, if I don't save this, it's I'm going to lose my place, and that's the nervousness about him. Craig Dawson and Ogbonna were okay, but they weren't fantastic. But I do think we, as say, we'll get into in a bit. We have made some, in my opinion, very good signings, and with another one potentially on the way. One club's already confirmed that he's going. We've not confirmed that he's arrived. But I do think we may see Areola starting in the next game. It was certainly in the next 2 if he has another dodgy game. Yes, we took a point out of it, but we were 2-0 up. So we shouldn't have lost that lead. But I'll take a point. 7 out of 9 for me for the first 3 fixtures isn't bad. Antonio again scored. Fornals scored. Benrahma was solid again. Obviously, we're not seeing the best of Soucek at the minute because Declan Rice is running forward a bit more, which is obviously nice to see. But yeah, I'm quietly confident. I can't even remember who our next fixture is, so there's no point in asking me what I think is going to happen in the next couple of weeks. I'm just riding the wave while it's here, mate.
Too bloody right. I'll be doing the same if I was you, to be honest. But yeah, no, it's another solid start for West Ham, and as you mentioned, 7 points out of 9. That's an incredible start to the season. When you look at, I think Tottenham are 9 for 9.
Yep.
Then you've got the likes of Man City, I think Manchester United, Liverpool are all that up there with you, mate. So you are big six material at the moment.
Well, I think
and long may it continue.
If we can stay consistent, and that I think that's the key. Not necessarily obliterating teams like City are doing, but being consistent with our performances and being hard to beat and hard working going forward. You're going to end up in the right place. You're going to end up in the right area. And my concern was squad depth, and they've started to address that a little bit. They have said they didn't want to bring in players for players' sake. And there are players that we've brought in who we've been linked with for a long time and been trying to get for weeks and months, apparently. But only going up 50p at a time in terms of transfer bids. But we did make some predictions, if I am not correct. So
we did.
What predictions did we make?
Okay, so for Man City Arsenal, you went for a 3-0. I went for a 2-1. You've been pretty spot on again. I think you were a little bit unlucky on that one. But obviously, we know the score was 5-0, so it's a point each.
Yep.
And then West Ham versus Crystal Palace, you had 3-0, I had 3-1. I was originally going to go with a draw, but then I changed my mind at the last minute, and I should have kept it because it would have at least got me another point.
Yeah.
But so that's a point each for the week. So the season 2 tools, as it stands at the moment, is coming home. Ian, you're currently on 5, and I've finally picked up my first point of the season.
Yeah,
there's still loads of time. That's what I'm saying for Arsenal, mate. And there's still loads of time for this. I'm going to catch it. Don't you worry.
But if I carry on at this rate, I'm going to obliterate my record for the last 2 years. So yeah, it's not too bad. I mean, we're in an international break now, so we're not going to predict the internationals because they're just silly. The team selection is silly. It's wound me up, if I'm honest, and I'm not even a watch. For the reason he's picked players who should have gone to the Euros that are now not playing in his team, and he's picked players who refuse to train but are actually on holiday, who've made one dodgy appearance in the squad, when there's other people who are deserving to be in the squad that are single-handedly sort of pulling Manchester United up the league, who are not in the squad. So it doesn't make any sense. So for that reason, I'm out of this not transfer window, this international break. I'm done with it. Euro fever was done, you know.
Yep, well and truly.
But
we'll get excited again once the World Cup rolls around next year.
So there is some big transfer news. But before we get to the confirmed stuff, there is one that I want an opinion on, if that is okay. We've seen Real Madrid sign Camavinga from Rennes for an astronomical fee and a 6-year deal. One that a number of the big teams were after, but he's gone. They've also put in a number of bids for Kylian Mbappe. The last one being rejected at 186 million pounds, 220 million euros. And PSG, who have signed Ramos, Ronaldo, Messi, you know, they've turned it down. And we know money is no object to them. But he is in his last year of his contract, and he has said he wants to join Real Madrid. So we'll do so on a free in January. Do you think they've made £186 million mistake?
Yes. Yes, 100%. I mean, we spoke about the transfer fee of Jack Grealish being £100 million.
Yep.
Now I know that the obviously I think that's the largest Premier League signing or Premier League transfer. But obviously we saw Kylian Mbappe go for, I think it was like 150 million euros when he went from Monaco to PSG. I think it was around about that figure. But
Yeah,
obviously, as you mentioned, PSG.
130 million pound in total.
Yeah. But it's crazy. I don't understand unless there's some sort of logic that PSG are trying to buy the Champions League this year. Because let's be honest, they've got an unbelievable squad.
Yep.
And I think when FIFA 22 comes out, everyone is going to be PSG.
Yep.
If you're playing on the friendlies or whatever, there's literally just going to be no point in playing as against anyone else. So it's just going to be PSG versus PSG this year. And everyone's effective. If you look at it, that's like the FIFA Ultimate Team.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
It's crazy, but I can understand from the sense that they do obviously want to try and win the Champions League. It's been one of their goals for God knows how long now, but they've now got a squad that has the potential to do that. And if they were to sell one of their best assets in terms of pace, number of goals, etc., it could potentially damage those chances of winning the Champions League this year.
Yep.
But I think that's a risk that they need to take in order to secure or potentially secure that trophy.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's a lot of money, man.
It is a lot of money.
It's a lot of money.
And I think for me, if Mbappe hadn't made his intentions clear that he wanted to move to Real Madrid after his time at PSG, then I would have not taken it in hopes that we can convince him to stay on.
Yep.
And maybe that's what they're doing when Real Madrid come in and say, oh, we want to offer you £250,000 a week or whatever they're going to offer. It will be a ridiculous sum. The PSG go, that's fine. We'll offer you £50,000 more a week. And I do think that may be potentially what they do. And you're right, on FIFA, that's it. PSG's the way forward. However, in real life, have they got some of these players at the wrong time in their career? And the only reason I say that is Ramos is obviously the wrong side of 30, still a brilliant defender. Messi is the wrong side of 30, still one of the world's best. Neymar obviously is not getting any younger. He's almost 30 now. Are they picking up these players who 4 or 5 years ago were in the team of the year every year, but actually now they're not always there? So Messi is because of his reputation. Is he? It's a silly question because he's gone to the French league, so he will walk that league. But is he half the player that he used to be?
Who's this? Sorry,
Lionel Messi.
I think you kind of need to look at it with in a different light, because I think you briefly touched on it with the whole kind of David Luiz situation in terms of they're obviously not going to have speed that they had 5-6 years ago.
Yeah.
Just because their bodies are getting older. However, what they will have is their the footballing brain has developed more, so they won't need to do those lung busting runs or whatever, because they've been so finely tuned that it almost becomes effortless. Now, I'm not saying that they're not going to run around or whatever, but it's a great question. But I still think you've potentially got 1 or 2 seasons left in those players anyway.
Yep.
If you don't absolutely run them ragged in terms of your domestic leagues or whatever, because let's be honest, PSG will pretty much walk that league this year.
Yeah, well,
I think with the players that they've got.
I do have a counterpoint to that, but I'll come at it afterwards. Go on. Sorry, carry on.
So I think think about this. Yes, in the terms of they are all the wrong side of 30, so they have got, or they will have fitness and speed issues. However, I think their footballing brains will kind of outweigh that side of it, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. So whilst age is not on their side, I still think they will be outstanding footballers and don't have to worry.
Okay. The thing you said there is they should walk the league, and I agree with you wholeheartedly, 100% agree. They should walk the league and not lose a single game, in my opinion. However, that was my opinion last year of the French league, and they came second, with one man in charge. Obviously, one Pochettino, who at Tottenham was labelled the almost man. Never quite did it. He got almost there. And again, he moved to PSG with a league that he should have walked and almost won it. I don't see... I think if they get in 2 games into the Champions League and they've got a point, or they've won 1 game and got a draw, I think we could see the end of Pochettino at PSG. You know, I don't think they can take that risk of not winning everything this year. But
agreed.
The next point, the Messi Ronaldo debate rumbles on, because Messi has moved for the first time ever, and he's moved to arguably one of the easiest top 5 leagues in Europe, a lot of people would probably argue the easiest league to play in. Ronaldo, on the other hand, has moved to, some would argue, the hardest league, or back to the hardest league, which is the Premier League, back with his beloved Manchester United. He did put quite a heartwarming message on his social media about it. We see lots of links with Manchester City, and all of a sudden he's moved to Manchester United again. Will he be the difference maker and make them title contenders again?
That I really don't know how to answer this question, because when you look now, please don't think that I'm by any way stretch of the imagination comparing Willian to Ronaldo. But listen,
right, go on.
Let me just finish this. Right, so the amount of abuse that we got when we signed Willian, purely on the age basis.
Yes.
That he's 32 years old, he's come to retirement FC, or Arsenal FC, because we had David Luiz, we had Willian, we had Aubameyang, again, all the wrong side of 30.
Yeah.
But you've got someone that's 36 years old, nearly 37, on a 2-year deal, so he could potentially be playing until he's 39 years old.
Yep.
No, he's not the same player again that he was going back 5-6 years ago, but you can't deny that he is still one of the best footballers in the world.
Yeah.
With his athleticism, his footballing brain, his ability, because he's been around the game for so long, he will be able to walk into that Manchester United dressing room, not only with the experience that he's got, with the winners' medals that he's got, his ability to still perform on the pitch, but he will be able to go in and coach the younger players, or the up and comers, and not only that, but also existing players as well. Because let's be honest, unless you are Messi or Ronaldo, you're never going to be at those top levels, are you? But one player for me doesn't win you the league. It's got to be the whole team around you. And I think if you pick up, or if he picks up an injury, because as you've mentioned, it's one of the hardest leagues in the world.
Yep.
People don't duck out of challenges and stuff, as we've seen over the weekend.
Yep.
And as we have seen previously. So if he picks up an injury, does that mean Manchester United have lost if he got injured on his first game back?
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I mean, the way I've looked at it, I was just sort of throwing it out there. there's obviously no right or wrong answers here. It's just opinion based. So let us know what you think in the comment section below. But for me, Ronaldo is where he is on his work ethic. He wasn't necessarily the quickest. He wasn't the most skillful. He had ability, no doubt, but he's still playing at the level he's playing at because he puts in the work. And I know you compared there to Willian on an age basis only and big money basis only going into a club, but I imagine the first person at the training ground will be Ronaldo, and the last person at the training ground will be Ronaldo. I do think that's the element that may lift some of the players. Obviously, he rubbing off his knowledge onto likes of Mason Greenwood, Rashford. I would say Daniel James, but he's just left. But that will help, and if he can push that work ethic and that winning mentality, a bit like we see when Bruno Fernandes came into Manchester United, they lifted. I think that could be it. Whether it lasts or not, I don't know. And the other way I looked at it is I don't think Solskjaer is no longer in charge of that club. I think he's the face of Manchester United as a manager. I don't think he has a single say in any decision. And the fact that now you've got Ronaldo in, who arguably is the biggest name in football. He left in the middle of a Juventus training session to go and join Manchester United. Didn't have permission to do so. He left because I'm Ronaldo. I think he's going to be the on-field manager. We see it when was it the World Cup? When he was shouting on the sidelines with a manager, coaching the team. He said he doesn't want to be a coach, but I don't think you can turn it off. When you're one of the world's best and you want to win, you can't turn off that wanting to win and trying to help your team win, even if you're not on the pitch. And I think that may help them. Do I think they're going to win it? No. I don't. I think if they had a stronger manager in charge, if they had an Allegri in charge, if they had even a Conte in charge, Pep Guardiola, they would be up there for challenging. But Manchester City are coming back stronger and stronger every game. Chelsea are still recruiting. They've just signed Saul Niguez from Atletico Madrid, who everyone's been after for ages, and they've looked dominant. Are Manchester United able to topple them? No, I don't think so. Will they give it a good go? Yes, but Solskjaer's not the man to do anything with them. And I think this will be the season that we see him sacked. You can't bring in one of the world's best. Still have Paul Pogba, who arguably on his day can be one of the world's best. And say you've bought Sancho, you've bought Varane. These are all the winners. And say the next generation of world class footballer. You can't bring all those in and finish third. You've got to finish top. There is no excuse. So for me, Solskjaer out, Ronaldo in, Manchester United somewhere in the top 4. But
yeah, fair point.
Speaking of transfers, obviously we've now moved on to the Premier League. We're seeing some weird ones come up. Solomon Rondon to Everton, linking back up with Benitez. Weird transfer. Some other weird ones, but Arsenal have let aforementioned Willian go. So that's something I do want your opinion on. Because he was very excited when he came in and very disappointed and hoping that this will be the season that actually we see the best of him again. That's now not going to happen. So first of all, what's your opinion on the departure of Willian?
I think fair play to him because it didn't work out for him. I think he had his best game last year at the start of the season, and everyone had high expectations for him, given his caliber at Chelsea. But it just never come to fruition. Every time he seemed to come onto the pitch, we lost the game, and it just didn't really hit the heights. Now that could be his age thing. It could be the amount of pressure that he was under from Arsenal fans. Whether he paid any attention to social media or not, I don't know. But certainly would be taking criticism from pundits and stuff. But it's just one of those transfers that didn't work out. He has agreed, or he did agree to terminate his contract. There was still 20, or is still entitled to around about £20 million in wages, which he said that he doesn't want. He just wants to head off back to Brazil. He wants to play football. So I think he's going back to the team where it all started for him. Excuse me, a team called Corinthians.
Yep.
But to be honest, I'm genuinely gutted that transfer didn't work out, because I've been an admirer of his when he was playing at Chelsea, and as you mentioned, I was really excited for him when he came into the team, but it just didn't click.
Yeah.
Nothing seemed to click with him. It was a bit of a damp squib. I wouldn't necessarily say it's one of the worst transfers that I've seen whilst being an Arsenal fan, but certainly by no means one of the best. But good luck to him. I mean, one of the things that I think he has taken a lot of credit for was his farewell message to Arsenal fans. It was very honest, very sincere, very classy. So by all means, best of luck to him.
Yeah.
In his next venture, no doubt he'll be retiring, or that will be his last club. And he's obviously taken a pay cut to go back out there. So he's obviously got friends and family back out there. So good luck to him.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things, isn't it, that obviously he knew it wasn't working out. The club thought it wasn't working out, and they've both come to say mutual consent to call it a day, which we don't see very often in football, where both parties say, "Okay, thank you, but no, thank you," and go apart their ways in quite a respectful manner, as you said. But obviously, with that being a disappointing out, Arsenal have signed a fair few players coming in. Who are you excited? Who has got you the most excited that's confirmed? And who are you most excited to be linked with still, with only a couple of hours left?
Just apologies to anyone that's seen me kind of make it look like I'm not paying any interest. I'm currently glued to social media just to see if there's any updates or anything. But from what I've seen, I think we're done in terms of ins. But we have today signed or still waiting for confirmation that the deal has gone through, a right back from Bologna, a guy called Takahiro Tomiyasu. And never heard of the guy before.
Say that after 4 pints.
Say that after 1 pint, mate. Oh, that's only Iron Brew, and I'm still struggling. Yeah, it's a bit of a kind of a left field transfer. No one had. I'll say no one. That I'm assuming that a number of people would have never heard of this guy until this morning. But at the same time, I have seen quite a few people who watch the Italian leagues and say that he's come with a pretty good pedigree. But he's a guy that was linked with Tottenham Hotspur, has apparently chose us over Spurs, so he's already a winner in my books.
Yeah.
But I've got to be honest, mate. I haven't got a clue what he's about. So I'm intrigued to see how he fares in the Premier League. He's going to have a massive adjustment period, but at the same time, it's not like we haven't got cover. Excuse me, in those positions as it stands at the moment. Obviously, with the likes of Chambers and Cedric Suarez in that position as it stands, but after the performances that they've put out fairly recently, I think he's going to be a pretty quick adjustment period into the team. But on the other hand, so it's a right back in, but we've had a right back out as well. In that, Hector Bellerin will be joining Real Betis for a loan spell. He's agreed a pay cut to join, and it's with the mentality that he obviously wants to get his football back on track. And fair play to him. He's a guy that I have a lot of respect for. Maybe not some of his fashion choices or some of his haircuts I've seen him, but up until he got his ACL injury a couple of years ago, he was a player I did really admire.
Yeah.
But just watching his recovery video, like his video diary, I had a lot of respect for him for doing that. But it just hasn't been the same player since. So, yeah, good luck to him. It's only a loan. There's no obligation to buy or no option to buy. I think it's just go out there, get some of your football back. And I didn't realise, but he's only 26 years old.
Yeah, seems to have
So
been
he's
around
still
for a
got
long
couple of
time,
years.
doesn't he?
So he's still got a good few years left in him, and hopefully, obviously, once this loan spell's over, he can come back to the club. Obviously, permitting on how how some of these other transfers work out, and we'll see what happens. But that could potentially be the end of him. One player that has really caught my eye in terms of transfers that we've already done was Sambi Lokonga. Again, not a player I know too much about, but I think for the first 2 games that he played in the Premier League, and obviously taking into account pre-seasons as well, I think he's a quality player. He's got he can ping a pass about. He's one of these players that likes to play the ball forward, which with some of our central midfielders we seem to be having issues with. But he's quite quick, box to box.
Yep.
And I think if anyone's going to stand out this season in terms of players in, I think he's going to be one of them. Obviously, we've got Granit Xhaka out for 3 games now following that red card. So this is, I suppose, really a chance for him to kind of bed into the team as quickly as possible. And hopefully Thomas Partey will be back very quickly after the international break.
Very good.
So those 2. I obviously Ben White as well. He's had a bit of a torrid time against Brentford, and then has been out with COVID for the last 2 games. So he should be back in for
Norwich,
for when the season picks up again. And I'm interested to see how he does as well.
Fair enough.
What about yourself?
For West Ham, we've brought in today. Well, the other day we brought in Kurt Zuma, who, when he moved from France, was sought after by Chelsea, United, Liverpool. Chelsea won the signature, and he was a mainstay in their team for a while, and then he had that horrible knee injury, didn't he, a few years ago, and has been in and out since. Still a bit of a monster, and in my opinion, one of the best defenders that we've actually signed in a very, very long time. Now, the fact that I'm going to be a little bit of the Arsene Wenger, we could have signed. We almost signed Ruben Diaz 2 seasons ago. I think if we had done, and we'd then captured Zuma as well, we'd arguably have one of the best centre-back pairings in the league. Obviously, he brings competition for Ogbonna, who's, I think, going to be his last season at West Ham. Craig Dawson as well. I don't think he's maybe got 1 or 2 left. And Issa Diop, who is young and up and coming. He's one of our younger defenders, and I think going forward we could potentially see Diop and Zuma, a French back pairing, take charge for us. That one I was very excited to get over the line because it looked like it wasn't going to be done, and it fell apart, but it has now been done. The other one we've signed, £25 million today, Nicola Vlasic. Now, a lot of people don't know him. I like the guy. He was at Everton. He only played 9 games at Everton 2 years ago. They didn't really play to his strengths, but he's a sort of, for the West Ham fans who don't know him, he's like a centre attacking midfielder who can play striker. And he plays at that end of the pitch. He went away to Russia and I think has improved his game wholeheartedly in the last 2 years. And it's a signing that I'm very excited. Quick passes, great anticipation, and I think we could see some improvement with him in the team. Now, we have seen today one that I was disappointed. I wanted to see him in and around the first team, Connor Coventry, a West Ham Academy graduate. He's gone on loan to Peterborough. But that paves the way for, I want to call him Klaus, but he's not Klaus. Krul from Spartak Moscow, who have confirmed he's leaving to West Ham on a loan with the option to buy. Defensive midfielder who can play sort of box to box. In the Croatian teams, we've got a few Croatians, which means we could win the Europa League, because no one has won the Europa League or the Champions League without a Croatian in the team. So that's very good for us. And one more that potentially will get over the line, Jesse Lingard. It looks like now he is open to the option of leaving. Now Ronaldo's come back. Obviously, they've let Daniel James go for 25 million quid, which I think is an astronomical fee for him. And I think if the price is right, he will join West Ham. If not, he will sit and clean Ronaldo's boots for £65,000 a week. I would like him back, obviously, but I wouldn't want him to pay over the odds for someone who potentially you can sign on a free in January.
What do you think would be a realistic amount to pay for him that you would feel comfortable for?
Now this is a difficult one because transfer fees are a bit mad, aren't they, at the moment? But for me, he hasn't played much in pre-season. He hasn't played any Premier League games. And yes, he did play for us, but he didn't play in the Euros. So that drops his valuation for me. He has 1 year left on his contract with no option for a second. He's only on £65,000 a week. So I'm going to go at most, you're looking at 10 million going up to 12 with some add-ons. I think that's a realistic price for him. They wanted like 35 million for him. It doesn't work out. His contract isn't for 35 million quid, you know. So I would say offer him 10 mil. If they don't want it, leave it, and hey ho, we go without. I think if he was to make a fuss, which I don't think he will, then he could get that move done. But I think he's riding the line of last year with Manchester United being able to move on to somebody else rather than ruining lots of relationships if it doesn't go the way he wanted it to. Obviously, he comes to West Ham, and although his social media is a little bit flamboyant, he did come across as a consummate professional, so I can't see him throwing his toys out the pram. Out the pram.
Yep. And who would you say was your best bit of business this summer?
Coach Zuma.
Yeah,
100%. We've not seen him play a game yet, but we know what he's about. He's been in and around the Premier League. I think he's won the Premier League. He's won the Champions League. He knows what it's about. So, yeah, I don't think you can argue that that's a good signing for us. The one bit of business we now need to do, and it may wait for the transfer window to close, is to sign Declan Rice to a longer contract and make him our highest paid player. And if you want a buyout clause in his contract, a bit like Jack Grealish did, give him it. Say we value at 150 million quid. So we'll put that in your contract. Some offers 150 million, you're free to walk away, but paying for the privilege of having it. You know what I mean? If we value him at that, let him know we value him at that. Make him the highest paid player. A lot of West Ham fans are ruining the fact that Antonio is going out to play one game for Jamaica. An international break out of their free. He's phenomenal for us, and I hope he doesn't come back injured. But we have now got Vlasic, who isn't the same sort of player, but we're evolving as a team year on year. I think we're getting better players every year. I mean, Souček, everyone question marks over him. He's been phenomenal. Sufal, again, same thing, been phenomenal. Said Benrahma, we saw flashes of it this year. He's been phenomenal. So David Moyes come out and said, yes, there are players, but we don't want to pursue them and pay over the odds for someone who we're not 100% will commit to what we want to do. That's why, allegedly, we didn't pursue Tammy Abraham. I think a lot of West Ham fans would love to see him there because actually he's quite a good footballer and he can score goals. You know he's going to get you goals.
Yep.
But they wasn't confident he would buy into the philosophy that David Moyes is trying to instill in the players. So, can't really argue. I mean...
Yeah, so
go on.
I was just going to say, we've still got a couple of hours of the the transfer window to run. But I really don't see us getting anyone else, and I've literally just read as well that apparently the deal for Tamiyasu or whatever his name was, is not as close as what was originally led to believe earlier. So this is one that could potentially go right down to the wire.
Yeah, I mean,
but
the breaking news that Sky Sports have just put up is that Barcelona are looking for a potential suitor for Antoine Griezmann. So he's been linked with going back to Atletico Madrid, with João Felix going the other way, but Barcelona are not interested in that because they're trying to remove high-paid players from their wage budget, not replace them. So will we see him go back to Atletico Madrid? I think he could suit Arsenal. I know he's getting up there in age, but he's that sort of player. Nice, quick passing football.
I think you actually mentioned that last week.
Yep.
On the podcast last week.
Yeah. I think
we'll see.
Could you get it done? Potentially. Be interesting if he does come to the Premier League. I think he might try and go back to Atletico. But obviously he's down in confidence. That's the only thing if you did try and sign him. Is he going to get it straight away going into that Arsenal team? Or will he go to Manchester City? That would be unheard of. They look like they're in the market for a striker. Even though they're winning 5-0 still. Yeah, that's the question. How did you lose? They didn't have a 5-0. They didn't have a striker on the pitch.
Because we are equally as shit. We didn't have any defenders. We didn't have any defenders on the pitch, mate. That's what our problem was.
Now, I do think if Xhaka hadn't got his red card, it would have been 3-0.
It definitely would have been more competitive, I think.
So I think again, I should get 2 points.
One of the things that has worried me slightly is that is the fact that we're not really creating many chances. I think there was one from Emile Smith-Rowe where he closed down Edison and was a little bit unfortunate not for the ball not to go in. It's slightly ricocheted past the post, but for me that would have been a perfect slap in the face for Edison, because I think he was being very complacent. But it does worry me that we haven't really created many chances over the last few games. Now, I think one of the things that did impress me was the fact that Aubameyang come out and said, there is an issue. We need to look at ourselves in the mirror and we need to come back after this international break and sort things out. The thing that worries me is that it remains to be seen.
Yeah.
If we could go into that in the next game against Norwich, and this is where our season starts, then happy days. But we can't come away with a draw. I think we're at home for that match. We can't come away with a draw, and against Burnley, we can't lose that game either. Yeah. We need to be getting 6 points in order to stay in contention for the top 4. And now, again, I know we're only 3 games in the season and we've still got 35 games left to go, but you don't want to be starting on the back foot that far behind.
No.
It's not an impossibility. It becomes more improbable.
You could be going for the reverse Invincibles. Not winning, not getting a single point. The bit that concerns me as an outsider, if I was an Arsenal fan, is if you looked at the opening 3 fixtures let's put it this way. If you looked at the opening 4 fixtures that you've had, Brentford, you'd say we should win that. It would be a hard scrap. We should win that, even if it's a scrappy 2-0 or 2-1.
Mm-hmm.
Then we're going to Chelsea, which is always a difficult game. They're high on confidence. They're playing well, and they had the best defensive record since Tuchel's took over in the Premier League. So that's going to be a hard game. So if you can nick a point out of that, and that's more out of nullifying their attack rather than scoring goals. If Werner was playing, I think you may have done that. And then you go to Man City and you go, again, if we can nick a point, that's a result. West Brom, obviously, was a win game, which you done. I think if you'd beaten Brentford, it wouldn't have been so bad. But the fact you haven't scored a goal, you've lost to the 2 big teams. which in hindsight, when you look back at it, you go, actually, they were 2 hard fixtures. But the fact against Manchester City, there was not even a single shot on goal or a single shot on target. That's cause for concern when you've spent that much money. You've bought in Odegaard, you've got Aubameyang, you've got Lacazette, you've got Martinelli, you've got Smith Rowe, you've got Saka. Not a single shot on target. That's being totally dominated, and that's the concerning bit for me.
So, just looking at our fixtures, the next, I want to say this as respectfully as I can, but when I say the next big team that we've got, obviously I'll say, let me rephrase that. So we've got Spurs coming up in a couple of weeks.
Yep.
At the end of September, our next game against a big 6 club is not until November. And that's against Liverpool. And then we've got Manchester United a week later, on after the Liverpool game, obviously subject to the changes for TV fixtures or whatever. But if we haven't put a run of games together in that period, I will be not only very annoyed, but also very worried.
Yeah. I get that. And say the Norwich game will be hard and fast, but again, against West Brom, it was a hard and fast game. Your quality should show through. Burnley is the hard, in my opinion, the hardest game in the Premier League because it is always so physical. The fact that you're coming off of an international break to play them is probably a good thing. But yeah, I do think you potentially come away with 6 points out of those next 2 games, and at which point all will be forgotten, and Arteta will be the best manager ever, especially if you get a decent result. I did look up West Ham's next fixtures. We have got a horrible run. We come back to Southampton, who, if they turn up, it's a hard game. If they don't, we'll obliterate them. Then we go to Dynamo Zagreb in our first Europa League game ever. Or group stage. Then we play Manchester United twice. Right? And that's so between this Southampton fixture and the next one is like 14 days. Then we play Leeds. So we've got a travel to Europe, we've got 2 Manchester United games, and then Leeds.
Is one of those in a cup?
Yeah, we drew out of all the teams. Like we got a bye in the second round of the EFL Cup. We go into the third round playing Manchester United away, who've just signed Ronaldo. You know, you're like, well, this isn't our year for the cup. We're going for Europa League, boy. I don't care about the cup. It's not a real fixture, is it? It's like a Mickey Mouse trophy. Manchester City are just going to win it again. It doesn't matter. But yeah, so we've got a really hard run of fixtures. And then throughout the season, looking at it, there's not, usually you can pick a few throughout. You go, actually, if we're in poor form, that's the point where we can turn it around. That's the point where we can pick up a couple of wins and a draw. There's not any. That the easiest run of fixtures I think we've got here is towards the end of the season, and we play Arsenal, Norwich, Man City, Brighton, and last 4 fixtures. 3 of them on paper we should smash. Brighton is our bogey team. Norwich, we should win it, so we won't. Arsenal, who knows what will happen in that, and Manchester City will win by us getting the VAR goal disallowed. You know, it's so what could potentially be 6 points will be 0 points. But there's not a run of fixtures, and especially if we get through, this is the bit I'm not used to as a West Ham fan, is how thick and fast the fixtures will come through. Hopefully the squad will hold up. But I don't have anything else to add.
What was the guy that you've just signed?
What, Vlasic?
Oh, you've apparently signed another player.
Was it Crow? Kiel?
That's it.
Yeah. That's the bloke I was saying about from Spartak Moscow on loan with the option to buy. The only reason I knew that was happening is Spartak Moscow released a statement. The club president did about 2 hours ago saying, yeah, it's all done. he's on the way there now. West Ham didn't clock on.
yeah.
The West Ham didn't clock on to that he'd already said, yeah, it's done. But I think it was just subject to, obviously, T's being crossed and I's being dotted and paperwork being submitted. But yeah, if we've signed him, that's a good news. Solid midfielder. But as I said, I've got not really much else to add until after the international break.
Yep. Same.
But say, we are in transfer deadline day. We have got a couple of hours left as of now. Obviously, when you're listening to this, it may all be over. But until next time, I have been Ian.
I've been Mike.
We have been on the air, and we are FDT-TV, and we will see you after the international break. Bye-bye.
Ciao, ciao.